Kol Halalim, Layahu Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Recha HaKurash, double honors to the apostles of GMS who rule well, who I learned this truth from, and salutations and blessings unto you elect. Coming back once again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Recha HaKurash. I was just going through my old files on my old hard drive and all the images I had. I was just going over, and it was a lot of images, from the dark ages. I can just skim through them, but basically I got inspired, man, by looking at all these images from the dark ages. These are all Moors, this is all just history, right, that Esau says belongs to the Edomites, right, to so-called white people, but this is majority Israelite history, right, and the spirit is on the brothers, to bring out this history, man. There's a lot of images, but I'm going to go into some information I was looking at from this page again, realhistoryww.com. And down here, there's a lot of icons. Like I said, I can show a lot of this stuff, but you brothers can log on. But what I was gonna get was some information about that time period, certain time periods, right? This is dealing with the Franks and the Byzantine War. So again, I'm gonna read through it. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, maybe this is better. So it says in 801 to 810, Charlemagne. Let me try to do it like this. Hopefully this works. Charlemagne and the Byzantine Emperor Nicephorus the First waged war on both land and sea for control of Venetia and the Dalmatian coast, modern-day northern Italy, Slovenia, and Croatia. The war progressed well for the Franks. Additionally, beginning in 809, Nicephorus was distracted by a new war with the Bulgars. Therefore, the Byzantines began negotiations with the Franks, and peace was agreed upon, in which Charlemagne gave up most of the Dalmatian coast, which he had conquered, in exchange for the Byzantine emperor recognizing him as emperor of the West. Now, these were two Israelites. As you see here, he shows a fake coin of Charlemagne, right? Now, there's actual images. There's an image I had of a mural of Charlemagne. Not a mural. It was on a stained glass in a church, and it showed him dark skin, But Charlemagne, he was a great emperor, man, right? It says, then Charlemagne busied himself with driving the albinos back to the east. Between 802 and 812, Charlemagne fought the Saxon tribes, which were Israelites as well. Okay, Lord's will, I'll do a lesson on the Saxons and the British and all that. Located to the north, in the beginning of this war, Charlemagne gained his reputation as a ruthless warrior when he massacred over 4,000 Saxons. Still, the warfare with the Saxons continued on. Charlemagne fought the Saxons for 30 years. Finally, he brought Saxony to his kingdom. In 808 to 810 AD, Charlemagne settled accounts with the Danes, who were Israelites, right? Different kind of Vikings, if you will. All right, mainly from the tribe of Dan. That's what Dane goes back to, who had given aid and asylum to the Saxon leader Widukind in the Saxon Wars. In 805-806, Charlemagne's forces subdued the Slavic region of Bohemia, modern-day Czech Republic. Charlemagne was a ruthless warrior, but he had other achievements as well. He provided a good government for his kingdom, in which he had outdoor meetings. In these meetings, the mass could vote by shouting out their agreement or disagreement with his offered laws. He charged property taxations called tites, so that there would be money to pay for improvements like the 500-foot bridge up the Rhine River and the cathedral at Ravenna. He raised education too. He brought in teachers from other lands to restore schools. He even started out a school at his palace, Aachen Castle, right? So never listen to Esau when he tells you about, the we're not now here. We're not telling you the medieval ages were righteous or anything, but never let Esau tell you that it was a time of darkness and ignorance and brutality and basically darkness. Without any kind of education or anything like that. All right, you can look at these castles and palaces themselves and look at the great architectural work, and the great masonry work and the knowledge it took to build something great like that. You people pay for that today to go to those tourist attractions, man. How are you gonna tell me that was a time of great ignorance? It was a great time of Esau's ignorance, man. It says he had monks copy books in the scholarly language of Latin in order to maintain them. Charlemagne ruled about 47 years. He provided a prosperous and stable country for his people during an era of uncertainty in Europe. He died at the age of 72, ruler of a kingdom that included what is now modern France, Switzerland, Britain, the Netherlands, half of Italy, half of Germany, part of Austria, and the Spanish border area. Now that's a big kingdom. That's a large kingdom, man. That's a very large kingdom. Again, there's different things I can show, but I'm going to go down to the point. I believe I had it highlighted. Like I said, man, there's a lot of things I'm just skipping through because, there's a lot of things, but I want to go straight to the point. These are all icons. All right, look at this cathedral, man. All right. So this is St. Maurice. All right. Let's see. Here. The race-religious wars in Europe. It says, as we shall see later, there were great race wars, now termed religious wars, in the late medieval period in Europe. These race wars resulted in the genocide of blacks in Europe and the expulsion of the survivors to the Americas. They came about because ascendant European albinos, whose numbers were constantly increased by new migrants from Central Asia, and finally the Mongols, expulsion of the Turks from Asia, wanted to begin a new era, one completely free of their black lords. Early on, the albinos apparently realized that one great impediment to their new order was the Catholic Church with its black popes and black saints. The saints especially were an integral part of the Catholic Church. Their images were prayed to by believers, and they were almost exclusively black. Now, obviously, what was needed was a religion without images of saints. The Protestant Reformation, right? Protestant Reformation was the 16th century schism within Western Christianity initiated by Martin Luther, John Calvin, and other early Protestants. The efforts of the self-described reformers who objected to protested the doctrines, rituals, and ecclesiastical structure of the Roman Catholic Church led to the creation of new national Protestant churches. The Reformation was precipitated by earlier events within Europe, such as the Black Death, which is what we always tell you brothers about during the time of, what time period was that? When did the 1,000 years really begin? About 325, 330 AD to 1325, 1330 AD, because why? 1325, you can look up, was the beginning of the Great Plagues, the pneumonic and bubonic plagues, right? That helped in the rebellions and the upper hand of Esau, right? And the Western Schism, which eroded people's faith in the Catholic Church and the papacy that governed it. In general, Northern Europe, with the exception of Ireland and pockets of Britain and the Netherlands, turned Protestant. Southern Europe remained Roman Catholic, while fierce battles, which turned into warfare, took place in Central Europe. The largest of the new churches were the Lutherans, mostly in Germany, the Baltics, and Scandinavia, and the Reformed churches, mostly in Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Scotland. There were many smaller bodies as well. The most common dating to the or of the Protestant Reformation begins in 1517 when Luther published the 95 Thesis and concludes in 1648 with the Treaty of Westphalia that ended years of European religious wars. All right. So once again, some history for you. Those books are good right there. I had one of them, this one I think, but that one's good. But you had a lot of like the article said, you had a lot of religious wars or race wars, all right, that were called or deemed religious wars later. See a lot of icons laughably called Dom Nicolou, Prince of Congo, on a visit to Portugal. Note that the prince wears European clothing and icons, a royal coronet or cap with two versions of the Teutonic Knights of the Holy Roman Empire's cross pat on the band, the Iron Cross, version commonly used by the modern German military, and a triangle or triangular closed-tip version of the cross pat. These types of crosses are also common on British heraldry because the current British royalty are of German extraction, right? And that happened through Saxe-Coburg marrying that lineage from Germany, marrying into the Queen Victoria, right? And that's why they were deemed the new nobility. You actually had a thing called the black nobility. The prince also wears around his neck another type cross of the Teutonic Knights, the orders of brothers of the German house of Saint Mary in Jerusalem, or a cross of the Portuguese Templar Knights, which would be red. Right. The prince also wears a medieval Tyrolean jacket. Tyrol was a state of the Holy Roman Empire. In the aggregate, the prince's garb suggests that he was a prince of the Holy Roman Empire. So that's why in the beginning here it says it's laughable, because it says it's the Prince of Congo on a visit to Portugal. This was already a man who is of great nobility in Europe, and you can see right there, it's probably those look like fringes. All right. So that's some info. Here's another image here. Light-skinned Jake. All right. This is a portrait of a young black Holy Roman Empire nobleman hunting with fur hat and fur cloak by Martin van Matens II. Right? So it says down here, look at this down. It says, note how the degenerate albino racists describe the painting portrait of a young black man in Eastern European livery. Since livery means special uniform worn by a servant or official, then they are obviously trying to imply that some master somewhere dresses his servants in fur and the finest boots and clothing. And since there are no monkeys in Europe, it can be safely assumed that the monkey was added in modern times to associate the Holy Roman or the young Holy Roman nobleman with Africa. Aren't those degenerate races just the vilest, stupidest liars on earth? That's right. The scriptures in the book of Job 30 calls them the viler than the earth, actually, as a matter of fact. All right, let's go. Let me see. What did I have? I had some more info. This is from another tab here called Jacobite Gleanings from State Manuscript. There's a book, I guess, called the Jacobite Gleanings. All right, and here I believe you can get a free link. I haven't tried it, but you can try. I'm going to read this part down here. Now again, this is all tying into the what am I trying to address? What am I trying to bring out? Just the vast history or the fact of history that's been removed, right? That so-called dark-skinned people ruled and were of high noble rank, basically landlords and rulers of the majority, if not all, of Europe. And I say that because you had small Edomite kingdoms, and we can't forget the mixture of Moab, the Huns, Central Asians and whatnot. So that's why I made that statement. So let's read here. After the yellow, in the blue, it says, which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. All Africa is black or tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America exclusive of the newcomers wholly so, and in Europe the Spaniards, check this out, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. The Saxons only exempted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth, and that's because of, again, what we were reading about different race wars and plagues, all right, and overthrows. I could wish their numbers were increased, and while we are, as I may call it, scurrying our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this slide of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? That was pretty much the point, but where's that from? As you see here, the source is Benjamin Franklin, Observations Concerning the Increasing of Mankind, Peopling and Countries, Boston, printed by S. Neeland, 1755. So he just said all these people are swarthy. Now, as you see here, when you look up swarthy and tawny, I don't have to really say much, You can see it for yourself, swarthy. I'm going to read this part down here. While the 30-year war against the Holy Roman Empire are on the continent, and the British civil wars in Britain during the 17th century were the principal impetus for insurgent albinos to depopulate Europe of its native people and natural kings, there were many other wars and conflicts which also contributed to the depopulation of blacks from Europe and into the Americas as slaves and indentured servitudes, or servants, Check this out, the Jacobite rebellions, and that's a thing you can look up, in Britain. Why? Because who were the Jacobites? The Jacobites, that was a lineage of kings, right? The Jacobite kings, stemming from King James, because King James was the first of England, but he was already the sixth of Scotland. So there was a lineage of Stuart. They're called the Stuarts, but they're also called the Jacobites, right? It says, the method was, of course, by ship. Typical is the voyages of the ship Jamaica Galley, sailing from Rotterdam, Holland, to Cowes in England, then to Philadelphia, February 7th, 1738. The ship carried a cargo of Palatine males, right? A historic state of the Black Roman Empire. The Immigrant Ships Transcribers Guild maintains a database on the internet with a list of ships and peoples transported, right? So here, the Jacobites, right? So Jacobites, or Jacobitism, was a political movement in Great Britain and Ireland that aimed to restore the Roman Catholic Stuart kingdom, or King James VII of Scotland, who was also James II of England and Ireland, and his heirs to the thrones of England, Scotland, and Ireland. The movement took its name from Jacobus, the Renaissance Latin form of Iacomus, because there was no J before the 1600s. It was an I that they added a hook to make it a J, right? The original Latin form of James. Adherents rebelled against the British government on several occasions between 1688 and 1746. After James II was deposed in 1688 and replaced by his daughter Mary II, ruling jointly with her husband and first cousin William III, the Stuarts lived in exile, occasionally attempting to regain the throne. The strongholds of Jacobitism were parts of the Scottish Highlands and the lowland northeast of Scotland, Ireland, and parts of northern England, mostly within the counties of Northumberland and Lancashire. Significant support also existed in Wales and southwest England. The Jacobites believed that parliamentary interference with the line of succession to the English and Scottish thrones was illegal. Catholics also hoped the Stuarts would end recusancy. In Scotland, the Jacobite cause became intertwined with the clan system. The emblem of the Jacobites is the white cockade. White Rose Day is celebrated on June 10th, the anniversary of the birth of the Old Pretender in 1688. A cockade is a knot of ribbons or other circular or oval-shaped symbol of distinctive colors, which is usually worn on a hat. So that's just some more information, right? Because King James, he was also known as actually Jacob. The word James is the English way of saying Jacob. So he was actually, when you see an old image of King James, you can actually see it says King Jacobus or King Icobus, because there's again no J. And I want to bring up one more thing. This is from Nature Knows No Color Line, just a very after the point, but still relevant, to this whole matter. Page 131. Let's see, check this out. It says, the First World War brought considerable mixing, principally between French Negro soldiers and German women on the Rhine, as was discussed in Volume 1 of Sex and Race. The offspring of these are gradually disappearing into the white population. But guess what? They're Jakes, even if they look like Edomites. German women, who, from what I've seen and read of them, are very fond of colored men, welcomed American Negro soldiers with open arms in 1945. Mrs. Alice B. Shaw, U.S. Army Club director who was stationed in Bremen and in Bavaria, said, I have been in Italy and France and have seen the success of the colored soldiers with women, but never in my life have I seen women trail our boys as the Germans. The French and Italians showed a little reserve, but not the Germans. William Gardner Smith, in his novel Last of the Conquerors, has given an account of the German women and the Negro soldiers in the Second World War that is almost documentary. Ollie Stewart estimated that there were 3,000 children born alone or born in Germany to Negro fathers, with an additional 1,000 yearly. He gives the approximate number of those born in such towns as Nuremberg, Gießen, Frankfurt, Mannheim, and Munich. He wrote, I visited one orphan home where children are cared for until they are 5 years old. Out of the 55 children there, 19 are colored. To their eternal credit, the German girls have loved and cared for their brown babies, for the most part, in the face of the most brutal treatment. I have had girls tell me they have received nothing from the fathers for their children, nothing from the father for their children. All they want is the child and work enough to care for it, man. So I'm just showing you from modern time mixing how easy it was, how nothing that was, and this happened where? In Germany, in France, in Italy, look, Norway, hold on. And then you had, so I'm just showing you that just to show you, right? This book is very good, by the way. Nature Knows No Color Line. You can find this on a PDF. This is a PDF I found online. If you look hard enough, you might still find it. But this book goes into obviously the icons and not the icons, the coat of arms, right? As you see. But I'm just showing that point about Germany just to show again the mixing, how easy it was, man. So if that happened during the Second World War, how simple was it during the medieval times, man? How much mixing, right, was there during the medieval times, right? So I hope you're edified. Again, I'm going to go into more history, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai willing. I want to say Kal Halalim La Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Bahashem Racha HaKodash for letting me bring this out. Double honors to the apostles of GMS, who I learned this truth from, and blessings unto you elect. Shalom.